Mangwanani Malelepo Vukenjani Tekpas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashim Beri and Glenora Shupura, ready to engage with the content. How are you, Glenora?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Ashman?
I am fantastic.
You look very good.
I thank you, as do you.
My brother from another mister.
There we go.
Well, getting into what you can expect on today's Africa Good Morning, South Africa says Putin will not attend BRICS summit by mutual agreement. Schools closed as Kenya braces for 3 days of tax hike protest. Beheadings in northern Mozambique cause alarm. We'll also be crossing over to Zimbabwe, speaking to our correspondent there, Talen Gore, who'll be filling us in on the news making waves there. Do stay tuned for Africa Good Morning.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the 15.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune into Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
Well, there was a lot of geopolitical brouhaha surrounding Vladimir Putin attending the BRICS summit in South Africa, and apparently it seems a resolution has come forth as South Africa says Putin will not attend BRICS summit by mutual agreement. Russian President Vladimir Putin will not attend the summit of the BRICS group of nations in South Africa in August by mutual agreement, South Africa's presidency said on Wednesday. Russia will be represented by its foreign minister Sergei Lavrov instead, the presidency said in a statement. South Africa faced a dilemma in hosting the summit because as a member of the International Criminal Court, it would theoretically be required to arrest Putin for alleged war crimes if he were to attend. The ICC has issued an arrest warrant for Putin. The leaders of Brazil, India, China and South Africa will attend the summit, the presidency said. Now, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa earlier said that arresting Vladimir Putin if he chooses to attend a summit in Johannesburg next month would be a declaration of war against Russia. The opposition Democratic Alliance has gone to court to try to force the authorities in South Africa, an ICC member, to carry out the arrest. Now, court documents reveal that Mr. Ramaphosa is firmly against any such move, stating that national security is at stake.
Swinging over to East Africa, schools closed as Kenya braces for 3 days of tax hike protest. Kenya's government closed schools in the capital and 2 other areas on Wednesday as East Africa's economic powerhouse braced for 3 days of demonstrations against the cost of living, which the president has said he would not allow to take place. 2 rounds of protests earlier this month descended into violence when police fired tear gas and, in some cases, live rounds at the crowds. At least 15 people were killed and hundreds arrested. Kenya's opposition called for the protests in part because of tax hikes passed last month by the government of President William Ruto, who was elected last August, pledging to champion the interests of the poor, but has seen the price of basic commodities balloon under his administration. Now, the government says the fuel and housing levies, which are expected to raise an extra 200 billion shillings a year, are needed to help deal with growing debt repayments and to fund job creation initiatives. Now, churches and civil rights groups have called for Ruto and veteran opposition leader Raila Odinga to resolve their differences through dialogue and call off the protest.
Now, moving over to Mozambique, the beheading of 2 people by suspected Islamist militants is causing alarm in northern Mozambique, as such atrocities have become less common in recent years. This is partly because regional troops were deployed 2 years ago to help the army recapture territory from the jihadists in the northern region of Cabo Delgado. While this has allowed some people to return to their villages, it has also encouraged retreating insurgents to win over villagers from whom they buy food. Of late, they have been saying claim their fight is with the defense forces, not locals. But the decapitated bodies of 2 fishermen were found in a bush near the village of Litamanda in Makomia district on Monday. It is believed they were killed over the weekend. A group of militants were spotted near where the two men resided, about 20 kilometers from Litamanda on Saturday. It comes 2 months after another beheading in Cabo Delgado. It is causing much concern among villagers in the region who had hoped an end to the 6-year-long insurgency was in sight.
South Africa is the most internet-addicted country in the world. In a study revealing the digital habits of people worldwide, South Africans emerge as the most voracious internet users, spending a staggering average of at least 9.5 hours online per day in 2022. This figure surpassed the global average by a notable 3 hours, as reported by Atlas VPN, a Delaware-based virtual private network platform. The study, which delved into internet usage patterns across 46 countries among individuals aged between 16 and 64, sourced its data from reputable sources like social media research firm We Are Social and social media intelligence platform Meltwater. One of the driving factors behind South Africa's internet enthusiasm is the increasing accessibility of the web across the country and the African continent. In 2020, around 70% of South Africans had internet access, a figure that has likely grown since then. By 2023, the nation boasted 43.48 million internet users, showcasing an impressive penetration rate of 72.3% among its population of 60.14 million. The South African government aims to achieve universal web access for all its citizens' households by 2024, further fueling the digital surge. Now, despite South Africa's internet speed lagging behind the global average, the nation has been making strides in improving connectivity.
And I speak on behalf of the entirety of Africa, saying, please keep the Amapiano dance routine tutorials coming. Moving on to Burkina Faso, they have banned a third media organization in 8 months, at a time when there's also severe censorship of journalists in the face of growing influence of jihadist movements. The latest television station to be banned by the Superior Council for Communication, a government media regulator, is the French news channel La Chaîne Info. The station will be offline for 3 months for allegedly airing false information about deteriorating security conditions in the country on its current affairs show 24H Pujadas, the Committee to Protect Journalists said in a statement. Now, Angela Quintown, CPJ's Africa Program Coordinator, said the banning of the station was not grounded in fact and deprived Burkinabe civilians of keeping abreast with current affairs. As Zimbabweans prepare to head to the polls on 23 August, we'll be talking to Talent Gore as he gives us insight as to how the rallies are going. Stay with Africa. Good morning.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
All right, so Zimbabwe is yet again heading to elections, and Talent Gore is on the ground as everything unfolds. Talent, let's talk about how the political campaigns have been going. I saw CCC had about 3 rallies in 3 rural areas in one day. Tell us more.
Yes, apparently political parties in Zimbabwe, they're campaigning ahead of the August 23 harmonized elections. And after having their campaigns by the police, the Coalition for Change has managed to campaign in different areas. So far, they've had 3 campaign rallies, and ZANU-PF, we are not going to say how many. They've had so many political rallies, and representatives of the country's 3 main political parties have also pledged their party's commitment to observe peace ahead and beyond the country's harmonized elections. The three representatives from ZANU-PF, Citizens Coalition for Change, and MDC-T made the verbal pledges at a recent political parties media conference, which is held in Harare. And they said that they're going to be maintaining peace, and there was no room for violence during their political rallies or during their political rallies, and when they'll be interacting with people. They say that they want to maintain peace during the election season and also after election seasons.
All right, moving on. President Mnangagwa has signed the patriotic bill into law. Can you expand on this story?
Yes, I think about a fortnight ago, I did a story whereby the patriotic bill was sent to Parliament, and Parliament had agreed, and they signed that, and the president was now in waiting to sign it into law. So right now, Zimbabwe's president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, has signed into law the criminal law amendment bill, or the so-called patriotic bill, which poses severe penalties on citizens who willfully injure the sovereignty and national interests of the Southern African nation. The new law prevents citizens from holding meetings with foreigners in which they criticize Zimbabwe and call for the imposition of some restrictive measures against the country's leadership or the nation. Offenders also face death penalty if they are convicted of attempting to overthrow the government. In cases where a citizen is deemed to have willfully injured the sovereignty and the national interest of Zimbabwe, one can get a lengthy jail term or lose citizenship. So the opposition party and also some citizens are saying that this patriotic bill is not patriotic at all, because if one loves his or her country, the country has to be in place, has to be criticized. So now for the president to then sign this bill into law, it means that Zimbabweans are no longer free to say what they want to say about the current government or even the government that will come in. They will not be allowed to criticize it or to say anything that goes against the government that is deemed unpatriotic and undemocratic. So anyone who does that will face jail, or rather will have anyone who is convicted of that will be sentenced to death.
Okay, so to be clear, if you practice freedom of speech, you are undemocratic. Yes. What I am very interested in is the implementation of this, because as you were speaking on the patriotic bill about, having meetings with foreign entities, it seemed like Hubert Angels, the president's appointed ambassador at large, was ticking all those boxes in the gold mafia report. So I do wonder how the implementation will come about, but nonetheless an interesting move as Zimbabwe heads to election. Now, in the last of your story, Zimbabwe is planning to export maize to Rwanda and the DRC. As briefly as you can, Talent.
Yes, well, the country has received more than 350,000 tons of maize export requests, and it will start by moving 40,000 tons to Rwanda while processing a request from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And the country said that the Minister of Finance, Anxious Masuku, also said that wheat exports are also being considered after the country attained self-sufficiency driven by the government's agricultural policies that have deliberately supported communal, small and medium-scale and commercial farmers with the aim of ensuring an upper middle-class income economy by 2030. So the country is also considering exporting wheat. As of now, they're going to be exporting 40,000 tons to Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
All right. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the news stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
Let's take a look at the weather predictions for Southern Africa.
All right, let's head into the economic news stories and we swing back to Mozambique, as Mozambique and the United Arab Emirates are negotiating a comprehensive economic partnership agreement creating a free trade area for goods, services and investment, the UAE Embassy in Maputo announced on Monday. In a statement, the Embassy of the United Arab Emirates said that the two countries are working on the removal of trade and investment barriers in a wide range of goods and services with a view to promoting non-petroleum bilateral trade between the two. The Embassy of the United Arab Emirates in Mozambique has added advantages to economic partnerships through ongoing negotiations which could culminate in the coming months with the signing of the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which covers several economic areas that have a vision of the establishment of a free trade area that attracts opportunities for access to markets for goods, services and investment between the parties.
In our next story, UK sanctions multi-billion-dollar entities belonging to warring factions in Sudan to stem war financing. Now, the UK has placed multi-billion-dollar entities belonging to the warring factions in Sudan under sanctions because of their alleged role in financing the war in the northeast African country. The Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces each own 3 of the companies that have been targeted. The UK government said the measures would limit their financial freedom by preventing UK citizens, companies and banks from dealing with them and put pressure on the parties to engage in the peace process. The war is entering its 3rd month and the UK believes it has gone this long because of the vast financial empires supporting the SAF and RSF, identified as multi-billion-dollar conglomerates, providing steady funding for a war that is largely seen as a fight between 2 mafia bosses.
All right, that brings us to the end of our economic news stories. Let's head to the indicators just before the sports with Ari.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news and starting off with cycling news. First, it is Tour de France that finishes this weekend and it is still lots of cycling to be done, but a significant move made by Jonas Vingegaard. He's a defending champion and he won the time trial quite convincingly. He's got a healthy lead at the moment, but still quite a few cycling stages left, so anything can still happen, but at the moment Jonas Vingegaard leading comfortably. What happened in stage 16 was the time trial over 22.4 kilometers, and it was Jonas Vingegaard of Denmark winning convincingly in a time of 32 minutes and 36 seconds. He was 1 minute and 38 seconds ahead of his closest rival, that is Tadej Pogačar, and it gives him a lead of 1 minute and 48 seconds overall. In 3rd position in the time trial was Wout van Aert. He was at 2 minutes and 51 seconds behind Jonas Vingegaard, just indicating his dominance in the time trial. At the moment in the general classifications, Jonas Vingegaard leading, and it is Tadej Pogačar 1 minute and 48 seconds then behind him, and a very long distance in 3rd position is Adam Yates. He's 8 minutes and 52 seconds behind, so it is still a 2 cyclist race in this one. It is either Jonas Vingegaard or Tadej Pogačar that will most probably be the winner on the weekend in Paris. Stage 17 will be very, very tough as well, so anything can happen there. There will be 4 huge climbs, mountain climbs, and it will be 165 kilometers. Continuing with golf news, and it is the British Open, one of the 4 majors on the men's calendar that will start on Thursday. Big one on the calendar always, and defending champion Cameron Smith, he will defend his title. He plays on Live Golf Initiative. Cameron Smith has been drawn to play in the first 2 rounds with Xander Schauffele of America and Wyndham Clark. And then also one of the other 3 players that is interesting to follow would be Rory McIlroy, that just won the Scottish Open. He will play with John Rahm and Justin Rose. Then Brooks Koepka, that was one of the major winners this year in the US Open. He is playing with Patrick Cantlay, and that will be interesting because he criticized Patrick Cantlay at the Masters for slow play. So now he's playing with Patrick Cantlay for 2 rounds. So that will be quite interesting how Brooks Koepka will handle that. Quite a few South Africans that also play in the British Open this year, 8 in total to be specific, and it will be Brendan Grace and Charles Schwartzel that will tee off, and then also Louis Oosthuizen, all of them playing in the Live Golf initiative as well. The amateur Christo Lamprecht, that just won the British Amateur, he will also play, and then the very experienced Ernie Els, he's in action together with Christian Besaidnot, also Tristan Lawrence, and also Oki Strydom. Quite a few South Africans, hopefully one of them will do well and be on the leaderboard come Sunday. And continuing international sports news with cricket news, it is the Women's Ashes in England that is completed. It is England playing against Australia, and it is Australia that retained the Ashes, but the point system ended 8 points all. That was after England won the last 50-over ODI international, and they also won the 50-over part, the 3 50-over games by 2-1. And what happened in the last game was that England won by 69 runs, and it was Australia or England that batted first, 285 for 9 they scored, and a very good performance again by Nat Shriver-Brunt, and she scored 129 runs. Australia had a revised total to chase, 269 for the lot in 44 overs because of the Duckworth-Lewis system because of rain, but they only scored 199 all out. So 8 points all, but Australia retained the Ashes because they're defending champions. To close off quickly, also soccer news, transfer news. It is Manchester United that confirmed 2 signings, 1 signing and 1 that confirmed to stay on at the club. The most significant confirmation is that Marcus Rashford, the striker, the England's forward striker, he will continue to play for Manchester United up till 2028. So that's a significant confirmation from Manchester United for the season. And then also it is Johnny Evans. He's an experienced player that used to play for Manchester United. He left for Leicester City, but now back again on a short-term deal. It's Johnny Evans. He's from Northern Ireland. He re-signed for Manchester United. He is a defender. So that is the international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Talk.
Jou is die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik gaan byt.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. Throughout this broadcast, let's have a look at the highlights. South Africa, Putin will not attend BRICS summit by mutual agreement. Schools closed as Kenya braces for 3 days of tax hike protests. Beheadings in northern Mozambique cause alarm. And Mozambique and UAE negotiate creation of free trade area.
And with that, we've come to the end of our show. Do remember that you can catch Africa Good Morning tomorrow, same time, same place. From me, Glenn Orashipura.
And me, Ashwin Berry. Swera Jakanaka.